Joining me now, once again, two people who were at the courthouse today. MSNBC legal correspondent Lisa Rubin, former Deputy Assistant Attorney General at the Department of Justice. Harry Litman, great to have you guys here. Thank you. So, as I see it, sort of three different things, big things happen today. There's Stormy Daniels cross and redirect. There's the sort of hearing about the mistrial, which was really interesting. And then the last witness who got sworn in and is going to be continuing tomorrow. So let's start with Stormy Daniels. We had her on the stand when last I talked to you, I think on Tuesday, right? Cross today, how did it go?
For whom is the question. I think it went really well for the prosecution. And obviously, I do. And the reason is because while there are very small differences in Stormy Daniels' story, look, this was an event that happened in 2006. It's 2024. The fact that Susan Necheles literally went on, I just counted, for 7 pages about whether Stormy Daniels was consistent or not about saying whether or not they had dinner is really beside the point. They were nibbling at the margins and at the same time increasingly making her more sympathetic by attacking her for things that were either socially regressive or the same sort of things that their own client does. For example, as you said in the opening, selling himself. Stormy Daniels was selling merchandise. Donald Trump sells merchandise all the time. In addition to his NFTs and shreds of his suits, he's selling gold sneakers. He's selling Bibles. Stormy Daniels sells a T-shirt that says Team Stormy on it, and they ask her, well, what does that mean? That means anybody who hates Donald Trump, doesn't it? She said, no, it means anybody who basically is on my side. And so the way in which they tried to shame her and exploit minor inconsistencies in her story over a period of years, I thought backfired on them, and if anything, just made her seem all the more determined and resolute in the core details of her story. So
when you were here last, you were saying that she was a really interesting witness and very compelling, but also you weren't quite sure what the jury made of her just because she does, you know, her sort of presentation and her line of work, I think, is going to be fairly new to most people. I don't know, but in terms of like her what she does for a living, and you were sort of trying to mentally model what the jury was thinking. What is your thinking about that after watching today?
Yeah, so I basically agree with Lisa. Nichols lands a few jabs, but she needs, because of what Trump has insisted on, a knockout punch, and she didn't come close. But also, just as a matter of technique, she did a lot. You showed a couple of them of questions that, well, isn't it a fact? And Daniels coolly said, no, false, etc. So that stopped her in her tracks. And then this misstep of basically suggesting, well, if you work in adult films, you couldn't possibly be cowed by a 60-year-old billionaire, looming over you. I think that really was a false note that was offensive. And in general, I got to say, I thought cross-examination, you must control. You want the jury looking at you. If anything, Stormy was controlling the dynamic in the room, and you could actually see it from whom the jury was looking at. She parried her effectively.
Right,
then there were sidebars.
They should be the wall that you're hitting the ball.
They're just like,
right?
yes,
boom,
yes.
Boom, boom,
and
you have it.
Yeah.
You're controlling where the ball goes.
And you're controlling the pace
and the rhythm and the cadence, yeah.
And I agree with Harry. She was not only a controlling witness, but she was the rare witness who's better on cross-examination than she was on direct. Because on direct, she meandered. She had her own objective. She wanted to tell her lived truth, which doesn't fit neatly into Merchan's rules.
But here she has something to push against.
Correct.
I want to that point you made, because you said earlier today when we played you, I thought that the nuts and sluts defense, which is a reference to a famous line by David Brock, just so people know, when he was attacking Anita Hill. It was called The Real Anita Hill, and it was an attempt to be like this woman when she came forward with her allegations against Clarence Thomas. This woman cannot be trusted, and he famously wrote a line, a little bit nutty and a little bit slutty. That was how he described her. So just to put the context for that, because we played in the intro. So here is Necheles about talking to Stormy Daniels. I want to get your reaction to this moment because it jumped out to me. You've acted and had sex in over 200 porn movies, right? 150-ish, yes. And there are naked men and naked women having sex, including yourself in those movies, right? But according to you, seeing a man sitting on a bed in a T-shirt and boxer shorts was so upsetting. You got lightheaded. Blood left your hand and feet, and you almost fainted, right? Stormy. Yes, when you are not expecting a man twice your age to be in their underwear. I've seen my husband naked almost every day. If I came out of the bathroom and it was not my husband, it was Mr. Trump on the bed, I would probably have the same reaction. I was like, well, that's pretty well said. And what did you think of this line of inquiry, which is, you're a porn star, how could you be upset a man's trying to have sex with you?
Well, it was even more offensive than that because it was, you're a porn star. How dare you think that you have the right to consent?
Right, to say no, right.
Correct. How it came across to me is because of what you do for your line of work, you must have a sign around your neck that basically says, open to all. And Stormy Daniels is very clear. I might do that for a living, but I choose when I do it for a living and how and when, right? Not to do it with a 60-year-old man who I found repugnant and who was looming over me in a way that felt like an imbalance of power that I wasn't into.
But just notice, when they're even talking about that, Nichols is essentially conceding that she's got to make it seem like the whole thing is fantasy. They never had sex at all. But she's asking about details of what she said and what she, didn't say. It was very scattershot, and she led with her chin a lot, and she received what happens when you lead with your chin. Grassa Stormy.
This was also just one more thing, because this, I think, relates to the hearing, right?
Right.
Which was the motion, once again, motion to dismiss. They had a motion to dismiss on Tuesday. It was denied. So the motion to dismiss here was basically, this was all wildly prejudicial.
Right.
It was outside the bounds. And my understanding of that was that part of the defense by part of the ruling by Mershon is, no, this stuff stays in because you said it didn't happen.
Correct.
Right? So I want to come to that in a second, but first, here's just, this, I think, is from the first day, but just to the line of questioning, which is you made it up. This was your career of over 20 years, writing, acting, directing sex films, right? Yes. So you have a lot of experience in making phony stories about sex appear to be real, right? Wow, that's not how I would put it. The sex in the films, it's very much real, just like what happened to me in that room. Necklace, all right. But you're making fictionalized stories about sex. You write these stories. Stormy Daniels, no, the sex is real. The character names might be different. The sex is very real. That's why it's pornography.
Right.
Which I thought was such a funny line.
Yeah.
But can I tell you what's not funny about that? First of all, that happened today. And
Right.
the room
That
was
did
like,
happen today. Okay.
The
So
room
it was
was like still. What I got out of that is the phrase, what happened to me. She allowed her, again, to control the narrative and make it about, this is something traumatic that happened to me, not this thing that I participated in willingly. I thought that was really impactful. And just the turn of phrase there,
to me.
just like what happened to me in that room.
So when we get to the mistrial, just first of all, how does that actually physically happen? Is that a sidebar? Is the jury still? No.
No, so it's and first of all, in an average trial day, 2 or 3 things happen. I think today was like 5 or 6. It was eventful, and that was one of them. You think normally an argument at the end of the day will be academic, low-key. Mershon eviscerated them, both Blanche and Necklace, and I think that's why Trump was so upset. But the jury left, and they had, an hour.
Stop right there.
Okay.
It's a perfect place. Why don't you stick around? We're going to talk about what happened when Judge Mershon eviscerated them at that hearing right after this break. Don't go anywhere.